Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Genlock, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Andy Potter, and today I'm joined by Beatriz Mourad.
Hello.
Alex Bonilla.
Hola.
And John McKenna.
Hi, everybody.
So today we're going to be talking about the 6th episode of Season 1 of Genlock, The Only Me I Know. In this episode, spoiler for this episode and all episodes before this one, so be aware of that. This podcast is explicit. We're going to be cursing, using bad words. But before that, you can find everything about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes, or on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the 6th episode here. It was a big episode. A lot of stuff happened. What are your thoughts on this, Beatriz?
I loved it. It's just, it continues the streak of like really solid episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'd rank this. I think, what was it? I think it was episode 4, the one that was the best. I still think that's still the best one, just in terms, but this one, there's so much in it. I love how we just get answers to things. We don't, like, there's still mystery in the show, but big answers that were set up in the last episode don't get dragged out. They're the first thing we go and talk about in the show, and we get answers to. So I loved it. And there's so much there that we can continue talking about in terms of like what they're talking about in terms of the mind and what they're dealing with. Like there's so much. And more important than anything, we get a moment between Kazu and Val, and it's going to be amazing when we talk about it.
We're definitely going to be talking about that moment.
Victorious! Anyway.
It's very great.
We need a ship name, is what I'm saying.
I mean,
Yazoo.
No, we need a cooler one. Like, what isn't Yaz and Val like Golden Cape or something? I don't know. It's some cool name, and I want a cool one for Kazu too.
Yeah, everyone needs cool ship names, but maybe we'll think of something when we get to that scene, because that scene is definitely something on the docket that I want to talk about. Alex, how did you like this episode?
I continue to be very impressed by this show. I think that this definitely has an argument if you want to go with this being the best episode. I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but I could be easily convinced, because the opening is very strong. The flashback sequence, it hits hard based on the build-up we've done so far. The fact that this is only episode 6, and we already have gotten to a point where a major catastrophic event has happened, and you have enough emotional connection for this to feel like a very big deal. Like that alone is very surprising that we've gotten here so quickly and so efficiently. So I really enjoyed that. The fight sequences are pretty good. Especially the highlight being, of course, the Kaz and Val fight. That whole
dance
sequence was very.
It's a dance.
Yeah, I didn't want to call it dance, but I guess it is a dance, right? And like that whole part was very artistically done. I appreciated that a lot in the middle of all the chaos going on. And more deep dives into the philosophicalness of it all, and the immediate hit of characters potentially dying or disappearing for a period of time is going to be something that we'll have to dig into. But so I think that this episode covers a lot of ground. It's following the same format that the previous episodes have done, of like the first half is backstory / character development, and the second half is fighting. I think that this is probably one of the best executions of that so far in the show. And yeah, just all in all, a great episode of Genlock, and it's exciting to be continuing down this road.
It's exciting to watch a good show. I think that's what we're trying to get at. It's exciting watching a good show we weren't expecting to be quite this good. John, how did you like this episode?
Once again, Genlock does another great job, and I agree with Alex. I think you can absolutely make the argument that this is the best episode of the series. The fight scenes I thought were extremely good. Again, the Val Kazu sync up was really great, and even the Yaz Chase non-sync up added a new dimension as well. Plus the mech fights were great, but where this episode excels for me is the flashback and how they were able to integrate that soft music score and the backstory to it, which is itself a pretty sad backstory. And the way they were able to integrate both still shots, music, and it really created a very somber occasion that also played into how the finale went as well, and also Chase's identity related to himself and related to the rest of the team. So yeah, they just did an amazing job with this episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is another great episode of Genlock. I agree with all of you. I also agree that there is an argument for this being the best episode. I think I'm still in the camp that episode 4 is a little bit better than this episode, but that's just me being aware of my recency bias, and maybe as we finish the season, I'll think that episode 6 is the best. Because this episode is really, really good. A lot of stuff happens. We get a lot of insight into Chase. We get into, this is the sign of a good show for me personally, that last week we had discussions about a topic, and this week the show talked about the specific things we were theorizing based on what we were talking about. Like, we went straight into like, hey, Chase is not really Chase, but also he is Chase, and we also went into more identity stuff, and I felt very vindicated for us talking about it, and it also felt just good that the show is going down these routes, because there's a lot of stuff that happens this episode that is not, I'd say, it's not the obvious route to take with this, because they could have gone a couple of ways with Clone Chase, and they kind of went a little less standard of a way with it. So I think we're going to start there with Clone Chase, because I think that's the big part of this non-fighting section, us learning about Chase's backstory in ways that he didn't know about, and specifically that the robot they were fighting last episode, and the robot in episode 4 is, for all intents and purposes, it's a version of Chase, the original version of Chase that was stolen by the Union. And he's, as far as I can tell, he's just been in this robot forever. And that's a pretty dark twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark. It's darker than I was expecting. I don't know if we brought up this idea specifically last week, but we definitely put forward ideas like this last week, of this being it. Beatriz, did you like this, the way they did the twist here?
I did, and in the back of my mind, there had always been this tiny critique that I never wanted to make, because it's Michael B. Jordan. I love him, and he is so good at what he does. So I never wanted to say it, but I had always thought that Chase, like, in terms of his performance, he was very restrained, and he was at times very emotionless. Like, he was just very stoic, and like, he just wouldn't have any energy in there, and I never understood why. And it was so small, because I was like, what's going on here? And now it all makes sense, because now I'm like, okay, all the, like, awkwardness with Chase when he's interacting with other people, his kind of lack of emotion, it all falls into place, because I'm like, oh, well, he's a copy. That's why. his brain was basically a box for the longest time. So, and also it fits with the whole, like, I'm not in my body, so I'm also detached, so there's that whole thing. So it kind of made sense in that sense. So for it to solve that small little gripe I had with his performance, and not just that, but I just really, there's so many places we could go. Like, immediately when I saw this happen, I thought, oh, okay. So at one point, we're gonna have, like, 2 twins come back. They're gonna be on the right side, and it's gonna be, like, another, like, internal character drama, and it's gonna be so glorious if we go down that route. Yeah. And there's also, like, and I just found it really interesting how, Julian is what they call the original copy, and Chase is what we call the copy is called Chase, and Julian's the original.
It's never explicitly stated on screen, but that is what they're doing. No, it's not.
It's just done. And and for me to pick up on that, I'm like, oh, I like this. And I just think it creates this very interesting kind of drama that we'll see eventually. I don't know if Julian can be saved, and then there is the entire question of, like, okay, well then, say for instance, Julian Chase's body can be restored. Yeah. Who's the one who goes into the body at this point? Like, who has, like, I'm thinking of it as if it were, like, a legal case, right? It's like, who's the one who has the right to this body between the two of them? And, like, who has authority on who is Chase and who is not? And I just found that to be really exciting. And I think, as John mentioned, that flashback sequence, like, the way it was done so efficiently it was done so efficiently that I really felt for him. I really felt for Julian being left behind, and that does something to you. Like, and here's the thing. It's like, he almost dies. They give him a second chance. And even after that second chance, he's basically left for dead. He's been left for dead twice now. Like, that does a lot to your psyche. And not only that, but you're stuck in a robot for who knows how long. And there's just this really great parallel between him and Chase in that he's stuck in the robot. Chase is also like, he can't really return to a bot. Like, he doesn't have the mobility either. And it's just the split in how they're both treated. And the tragedy of it all is it's not that Julian doesn't know a life where he was treated well by even after everything. He does know that life. He had the good life in terms of like, even after everything, he was being treated with respect, and now he's under the Union. He's not treated well. And I feel like that's even more traumatizing to know what's good and to not have it than to always know what's bad and not know what's good, you know? So it's just, I don't know. Julian's a very tragic character, and I'm going to hope to anything that I just hope that there is a chance that he does get redeemed, because I want him to be happy again.
Yeah. And it makes it interesting because he's like, the Chase that we're seeing is basically watching himself get mistreated in a sense. It's like he's seeing himself in a mirror almost, and he's seeing what the Union is doing to his original mind. And it really does. It's such an interesting and unique way of going about this as well. And it does raise, I mean, and again, it goes back to raising a lot of the ethical questions that we talked about previously with like Dr. Weller and the Genlock program, and the fact you can copy brains. There's at least twice, probably even more than that. So it really does become I think it raises immortality questions almost, where it's like, how many copies can you make of one mind to keep someone alive forever? But how does that mind like degrade over time, sort of kind of thing?
Yeah. And I think that's kind of nipped in the bud because it's implied that they need those physical brain cases to do it. So like there's a physical limitation to how many times they can copy it just because they need a thing to hold that brain. But I don't know if it's ever implied that like you can't just copy someone's brain a ton of times.
Or you could just make more cases.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. They didn't have the resources to make more cases, so they couldn't do that. But if they did, I think they could just keep doing it.
Yeah. And there's also, there's also one little quick thing, that John mentioned. I don't know if Chase sees Julian as a part of himself.
Yeah.
I feel like Chase sees himself as a separate entity. So, but that's interesting because it's the question of like, can the two selves form into one? Can they be melded together, or are they forever going to be two separate things? Is also worth considering.
Yeah. I think this really does more than anything so far, really ask the question, which of these people is Chase? Are both of them Chase? Or is one of them less Chase than another person, even though they're both come from the same set of memories? It's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
And I hope we dig into it a little bit more. I hope there's either like a conversation between the two clones or whatever. Oh, sorry, Alex. Did you have something you want to say?
Well, related to that, I don't think that this episode, I don't think it makes clear that our Chase is necessarily a degraded version of it. And I think it raises the philosophical question as well of like, if you separate a person at a certain moment and they begin having different experiences, at what point do they have enough different experiences that they become different people?
Yeah.
Right? So like you have the case of him they describe it as like restoring a backup. So you're just going to a point in the most recent access point you have. And then from there on, you have your good Chase living on his life, and you have the negative Chase, like being used by the Union, sort of thing. So, like, the interesting part about it is that I don't think, at least not yet, that this show implies that the copy is necessarily a lesser version of it at all, but just a person that's gone through different experiences from the one that got captured. And so that also will raise interesting questions later of like, what if this other Chase can be recovered, then can that person be like changed back and be enough difference that they can operate and make decisions on their own? Like that's another thing as well, like the idea of like of free will and like deciding since this is now a mechanical person, but like, does the ideas of free will still apply at that point? Has he been brainwashed by the Union, since we still have no idea what the Union is? So there are a lot of questions that are opened about this. And just in general, in terms of like the rollout of this reveal, I just want to say that I appreciate the fact that we do it in one episode. I think that that's a sign that Genlock believes its audience is smart enough to pick up on that from previous episodes, and so it doesn't feel the need to stretch it out. So I for one, greatly appreciate that, since I feel like other shows might have tried to stretch it out for a season or so before revealing, oh, it's a clone.
Yeah, we're really digging, we're really moving quickly. We're moving kind of at the pace of a miniseries here, but I don't, it doesn't feel like we're not going to get more after this season. It feels like this is a first season of multiple. Which is good. I'm excited. I want more of this show.
But to Alex's point, though, they are being incredibly efficient with it too.
No, they are.
And that help. And when you have 8 episodes, efficiency really does help. And I think it's really good. It's really tight writing.
Yeah. And I also think, we skipped over a couple little Chase moments here that I wanted to make sure we reference here before we move on. And that we skipped over that the intro song of the show actually changed a bit this episode. The very end, when it flickers to show Chase in the tube, it flickers to show a burned, like, charred version of Chase instead.
Oh yeah, he's got like a Terminator eye, right?
Yeah,
like red glowing.
It's almost as if like they're like, this is the real Chase, and it's like it makes you the watcher go like, wait, is that the real Chase? Like it makes you want to question like who is real, who deserves to be to be like considered as a real version of Chase even. Yeah. It's very interesting.
I mean, but here's the thing. I think the show's been very efficient in already telling us the answer.
Yeah.
You know, by telling us, like, by saying, okay, one is Julian and one is Chase, by splitting those two names, I feel like it's already subtly telling us, like, look, they're two different people now. Like, this is Julian. This is what happened to him. And here's Chase. And like, I don't know. I feel like the show, and adding to its efficiency, it's just going to, it's not even I don't think we're going to even get a conversation that's going to clearly point out like, oh, you are this and I am this. It's just going to be the way people are going to be treating them. It's like one's going to be referred to as Julian and the other Chase.
Yeah, and I like that because I don't think that you need to have this full thing. It doesn't need to be laid out. But I also like that it's subtle enough that like it still lets your audience think about it without the answer being just handed to them. Like we still have to think about it. We still have to process like, oh, they're talking about it this way, so that must mean, oh, they are kind of different people. And then you have to think about, oh, I guess that makes sense. They have different sets of memories at this point. It takes a couple of leaps from the audience to get there, but it's logical. It makes sense.
Right.
And then we also have this conversation right after the intro where we have Chase talking to Miranda, which leads directly into this conversation of Chase and Julian, because she just, I had never really processed it, but she just calls Chase, which is kind of weird. For the fact that this was his once girlfriend, was it who called him by
not
Julie?
Really, because maybe on base and like because I'm assuming they met in the army. I don't know if it's army or navy. I don't know. I'm assuming it's army or air force. I don't know, but whatever, the military. They met there, and maybe they initially were always referred to themselves as Chase. And well, he calls her Miranda, so I don't know. But maybe her last name is like really really long, so he was just like, I'm just gonna eventually. But
maybe her name is Miranda.
Yeah. It just feels like this makes sense for the story. Like she's calling him Chase because we have to have someone called Julian. That makes sense narratively. But I do think it matters that she's calling him Chase here because I don't know. It feels important, but it might just be that it makes narrative sense for.
Yeah.
Well, when you mentioned that, this version's called Chase and the first version's called Julian, it does become more important, but we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah. No. It's that's meta that Miranda could not have known, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. What was in that first episode when we have those scenes before this even happens? Does she refer to him as Julian?
That's what I'm trying to remember. I don't honestly remember because that was over a month ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember if she referred to him.
We need to rewatch, guys. We need to rewatch.
Yeah.
I think there's also a superficial explanation of just the fact that, like, she knows that this is a hologram version, so she feels a little bit more detached than she would have before.
Yeah,
so she's using by the name that everyone else calls him because she no longer feels any personal connection to this.
Yeah, no. I definitely felt that. That's more what I was reading as before we got the clone reveal Alex, and then I'm just kind of looking back on it a little bit differently, like.
I guess I didn't really notice it that much because I've had an ex-girlfriend that just called me McKenna the whole time, so.
I mean, I've had people call me Potter, but that's just like.
I'll say one small demerit to this episode. Miranda continues to be a character that doesn't exist, really. She has this one scene of like, hey, here are the theories that we've talked about. So now Chase, what do you think about these theories? So like there's that. And then there's like the one shot of them getting ready for the fight and she's just distracted because it's like evil Chase and she's not responding. There's like a 5-second shot of that and that's it. So, like, I don't know. Miranda's just not here.
It's very, I would say it was frustrating, but the fact of the matter is we have other strong women in this show, and I think that kind of negates Miranda's just, like, I think it was more frustrating at the beginning because we thought Miranda was going to be the only, like, lead woman in the show, but now we have Cammy, we have Valentina/Val, we have Yaz, and we have the Colonel. Like, we have all these characters that are good characters that I like. But Miranda just is kind of just the same character she's been since episode 2, essentially.
Yeah, and her importance has kind of declined as the series gone on.
Definitely. But I mean, granted, there's a lot of, like for instance, there's a lot of other characters who, I think his name's Miguel, the one who's voiced by Miles.
Yeah, Miguel.
He's also been the same character since the beginning, you know? So it's like, at the same time, like even though like Miranda's obviously of more importance, I'm also suggesting like, there's also like male characters who are who aren't that developed as well. So it's kind of like I think Andy is right in that like she is not the end all be all of the female representation of the show. And I think that's why for instance, for me, I'm like allowed to be I am allowing myself to be more lenient because they're just so, they're others.
Because I'm so interested in Cammy and Yaz and all that. Like they're fulfilling that need. It's just that I think at the beginning of the show, they promised us more with Miranda and we're not getting it. That's what frustration
and also it's like the difference between Miranda and Miguel is Miguel's kind of set up to be a side character to begin with. Miranda was set up to be a main character who's now become a side character because there's other stuff to deal with too.
But so I think if we look back at the whole season as a whole, I think Miranda will be less frustrating because it'll be like, okay, this was the amount she was meant to have this whole season.
And not just that, but I do think, I mean, depending on whether or not she's alive. There's
also that.
Depending on that, I do also think that there are specific episodes dedicated to specific characters. And her main, the problem with her, the issue is that her main episode was in the first episode. Yes. You know, that was the Miranda episodes, but they were the first episodes. Then we had the Cammy ones. Like this one was a very Chase heavy episode. So it's kind of like, well, then I don't know if it's in this season or next season, maybe we're going to have a more Miranda focused episode. But because there's a big cast, there is going to have to be this kind of, like, we still haven't had a big Kazu episode. So there is going to be there's going to be a time and a place for more development for Miranda. And I'm, I guess, a bit more forgiving because there's still other, like, she did have a big episode, and now it's just kind of, all right, we got to get others.
I think what's frustrating is that I agree with you that there are they're really good at these, like, specific character episodes while also still having other characters be involved. Like, Cammy's episode was great. Like, we had Cammy doing all this stuff, but we still got moments with Kazu and Val and everybody else.
I think it's also because she's separated, though, because she's not part of the Genlock team, which is the team we're focusing on. So once if she joins, I don't know if she's gonna. The more episodes go on, the less I think she's gonna be the one in the new mech. But you know, like maybe the more she incorporates herself with the Genlock team, then we're gonna have more moments where even if it's not her main episode, she still will have more development.
Yeah, and that was my point. That like she had an episode, but like the problem is she's just not integrated that she can't have moments when it's not her episode.
Right.
That's the problem. And she's just in a different hierarchy.
Yeah. And like my thing is like even if she's separated, but at least the characters that are separated have some kind of personality. Like even like the Miles Luna character, he's kind of
I do think she has personality though. That's a bit of a stretch to say she doesn't.
I mean, I barely get anything from that performance. Like like you were saying, Michael B. Jordan was muted in a lot of these episodes, and I feel like the Dakota Fanning is in a similar place here. Like I don't really get any emotion from those scenes, and maybe it still has to do with the fact that so far her main thing has been the relationship with Chase, and like that from the beginning never really landed. So we're kind of just waiting for something else to go on with Miranda for maybe to give her more opportunities. But yeah, like I don't know. There's something about that character is bothering me in terms of its lack of usage, because I feel like there is other things you could do with her.
There is an interview she did, Dakota Fanning did, about Genlock, and she did mention that she got to scream and yell and do some stuff, and I don't know if that we got enough of that in the first episode, so maybe there's gonna be more later. Maybe.
Yeah. I'm expecting at least one. It could just be like there's a final fight though, and that could just be it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but, we'll
and maybe on a meta level, you kind of do hope that, because Dakota Fanning probably doesn't come cheap, so.
Yeah.
I'm just I think we need more Miranda, but at the same time, now that we've talked about all this stuff we need Miranda to do, I would just rather have like a Kazu episode before her. That's what's so like frustrating.
Yeah, there are more interesting characters out there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm just saying, like, she already had her episode, so it's completely understandable to want to have an episode for a character who hasn't had their episode.
Yeah, it's just like, I think she needs the most work, but I also just want other characters to have more story. Like, I'm gonna be so excited when we get our Kazu episode, because they're like building up to it. They're building up to it very clearly here.
I'd love a Kazu episode.
But I'm telling you, she's going to end up being this great character, and I'm gonna laugh at y'all.
No. I believe you, Beatriz. I just don't think there's time in these 8 episodes.
Oh no, there's not gonna be. This is gonna be like a season 2, season 3 story arc.
Season 10, 11, 12.
Okay. You know, they're just gonna go.
Let's end off this Chase clone talk, or at least this specifically the way we've been talking about it, with the thing where he met with Weller before the flashback. He met with him, and we have this conversation about, well, first we have an RVP reference, which is stupid.
I didn't pick it up. What was it?
Weller just says, "You ever wonder why we're here?" which is the first line of Rooster Teeth's very first show.
I've never seen Red vs. Blue.
But it's fine. The point is that they just threw in a line and it kind of just sticks out. But, to me at least. But that's just fan service, it's whatever. But Weller mentions that he can copy people, essentially. So copying brains is possible. We kind of touched on this a little bit. I think this is kind of another Chekhov's gun waiting to happen.
What?
The Chekhov's gun. It's like when you set up that something exists so you can pull it out for a meaningful moment later in the show.
I think we took this chance to explain it while we're talking about Chase, so that we can also use it again in the future, specifically maybe with a Weller backup or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of a Weller backup.
Yeah.
Well, also, like in an earlier episode, he makes the offhanded joke of like, "Hey, I've tried to clone myself." So,
yeah.
So, like, you know, there's enough set up already for that to happen.
Yeah, I have a feeling his robot's gonna have a Weller backup inside it. That's what the Omega Protocol is.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. And also, I feel like if there's anyone who is like mentally prepared to be 100% okay with a clone, it would be Weller.
Yeah.
Like, it being like, I understand everything that it takes, and I think clones are equal to human. Like, he's like, I feel like his mind is, I don't know if progressive is the right word in this context, but like I feel like if there's anyone who's like 100% chill with it would be Weller.
And I also think that he would be able to understand, like, hey, my real body's dead. I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that I'm kind of convinced that's where we're gonna go with it. It makes sense in my head that they wouldn't want to just kill David Tennant. Like, we need more Dave Tennant. But we'll see. We'll still see. We might not be going that path. But is there anything else you guys want to talk about in this beginning section before we get into like the big fight? Because the rest of the episode is just a fight.
I mean, I will say though, the only risk because there's also the question of whether some people are alive in the fight, if they survive the fight, is if death becomes something that you can escape so easily, I'm just worried that we're going to constantly be questioning whether someone's truly dead. And then I don't know, I'm just scared that the meaning of it's going to get lost a little.
It could get overused.
Yeah, so that's the only thing, because we already had Chase escape death twice.
Yeah.
We've had, if Weller escapes death, and then not just Weller, but then the entire base, or the majority of that base, like, I want Miranda and I want the Colonel to survive, but at the same time, it's like, okay, but then whoever dies then is the question. Like, we don't want a Marvel situation where we know that no one ever dies.
We don't. But I think in their defense, Chase being cloned and not dying was very emotional and very impactful. And I think Weller may not be as impactful as Chase, but I think that there is a little bit of a different weight there for the mentor character surviving.
Yeah, that's why, but I mean, I do think that's why I was like, it would make more sense for Weller to yeah. I'm not saying Chase is going to die. I feel like it's Weller that's gonna, I was a little like mad at myself. I was like, oh my God, why didn't I ever like think that, of course he's gonna die. He's the mentor.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that, I think they also might limit it to be like, if you're Genlock compatible, you can be cloned or whatever. Like, you need to be able to sync with this stuff. So that does limit, like, us being able to save everybody.
Right. Well, again, as we said, the most developed ones tend to be the ones that are Genlocked. Yes. And the Genlock team. So it's like, if people that aren't in Genlock aren't developed enough and they die, are we going to care as much? Is also
not really. Yeah, exactly.
And then there's the whole age out program type thing too. But that's long ball.
I imagine that someone's going to have, like, their last Holon thing at some point.
That's gonna be sad.
Yeah, whoever the oldest one is.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. So let's move on to the base attack, because there's two sections of this. There's the attack outside in like the desert, and there's an attack inside the base. And the Union are attacking the Anvil. Like, they're coming in, they're on the offensive, and it's pretty scary. There's a lot of big crab robots, big spider robots here to attack. And I think the biggest things here, before we get to the amazing Val Kazu scene, we have Chase come flying in and fighting coming in to fight Julian. And this is this incredible, like, it has multiple phases. Like, they start hitting each other against walls, and like, Chase starts flying and gets some jets to help him fight. Like, it's a very mobile and dynamic fight scene.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this scene was the one that, this part of the fight worked the best for me, because it was the longest, maybe. Alex, how did you like this fight scene?
I thought it was fine. It kind of blended into the rest of the scene for me. It didn't really stand out as much. I will say the one thing that stood out to me is we didn't really talk about how, like, the intro was basically the anti-Chase walking in and like giving a speech to the Weller and the general about like how he wants to copy and stuff. And also, like, there's a detail thrown in there of like, why do I hear new voices in my head?
Yeah.
So like another hint at following from the episode with Cammy, where like he's also like saying things that we've already seen in the show, perhaps implying that there's still like some kind of background connection between that Chase and our Chase, that like he's still active. So I like that we're still keeping that detail around for the future when we realize that, like, perhaps that's how they're being able to be followed or something, because this anti-Chase still has this kind of connection to them.
I guess it's still in play that they meld their brains together and they just become one brain. Like that.
Yeah, if we like extend that idea and it's like, hey, if you're already sort of connected to me, then why don't we just do it all the way, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Like, have Nega Chase, or have Julian mixed with Chase, and then they can both have a body.
Also, I'm curious about why Chase because when Chase denied Yaz. So I'm like, maybe there's a fear because Chase isn't linked to a body, or like, I don't know, maybe there's a restriction with Chase, or maybe I don't know, it's interesting.
I feel like I also fear, Beatriz, like, in that similar vein, that when someone tries to meld with Chase, they might meld with Julian as well.
Right.
Like, that might be what happens. And maybe Chase doesn't know that he's melding with Julian, but on a subconscious level he is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why Chase rebuffed Yaz, maybe.
Yeah. It's interesting. Because I think this episode really, more than any other episode, really showed why the melding was so good. Like, it's very impressive. It's almost Steven Universe-esque in the way it works. Like, I was very surprised at how they portrayed it. So let's move on to that, because I think the Val Kazu scene was probably my favorite sequence of the entire episode.
Oh, man,
it was very beautiful. It was very fun, and it was pretty gay.
Oh, yes, it was.
Because Valentina.
Wait, hold on. Gay? How?
Did you not see that? It was
right.
intimate.
Short. Oh, the short hair. She's short hair now. Okay.
Yeah, Valentina.
It's Val. Okay, got it.
Yeah, Val merged with Kazu, and then they did a dance fight scene with some robots, and it was very cool. Beatriz, I know you're really excited about this. What are your thoughts?
I first want to start off by saying how beautiful the juxtaposition of them, the silence of their minds juxtaposed against the chaos of the battle. It, like, that to me, just in terms of sound and also in terms of visual, it's just the calmness in the middle of, like, a battlefield is just so lovely.
Yeah.
And there's just this, from the very moment that Val appears and does this, bow, this beautiful,
yes.
I mean, it for me, yes, you mentioned that it's, very reminiscent of Steven Universe, but something that also that Steven Universe has been influenced by, it reminded me a lot of Revolutionary Girl Utena. It's just this it was this beautiful dance, and it was just this, they share this moment where Kazu is just kind of oh, I trust you. Oh, and then at the end, they're Val kind of it's about to fly away in a way, it's floating by the time you leave. Oh my God. It's just all of it. The way it was choreographed, the way it all happened. It was just so beautifully done, and it was just so intimate. Not just this, but all the moments we have with them in this empty space in their minds, they're so vulnerable and intimate that to me, it just, because I am so certain that Julian is going to violate that trust, that relationship. There's going to be a moment where that's going to be violated, and it's going to be so heart-wrenching when it happens, because this is such a peaceful space, and it's someone at their most vulnerable. It's their mind completely
It's just your
there.
mind.
It's just their mind completely there for someone to embrace or even attack. So for me, it's it showed that I'm just saying, Kazu and Valentina, it's a thing. It's gonna happen. I am so on this ship. I am the captain.
It's a very good ship.
You're gonna have to create the name for it, though.
Oh man, okay, give me a second. But yeah, and it's just, I don't know, and there was just this electricity there of both of them. Just completely in sync with each other. And I don't know, I'm curious to see how, Kazu's gonna react to this afterward, after having such an intimate experience. Or is Kazu gonna be a little freaked out? Cause Val/Valentina has been always, rolls with the punches, It's just all right, I'm down for this. I dig it. Whereas Kazu's been a bit more restrained. So I'm interested to see how that leaves, the impact that leaves on him.
Yeah, and I think that's my favorite part of this, is that you kind of touched on, is that I really like the consent factor of it. Val makes very sure before they start, this is what we're doing. We're doing this. And then as soon as it happens, it just doesn't stop. It's really interesting. Sorry, I think I cut off one of you, John.
And they're right in sync too.
Yes.
Almost from the get-go, which is great. And sort of piggybacking on what Beatriz said, this reminds me a lot of Monty fights, for example, because one of the things a lot of people credited him with in the early days of RWBY, and I think RVB as well, was that the fights told a story. And that's the one thing I loved about this mech fight. Why this might be my favorite mech fight, at least, of the series, because there was a lot of, storytelling elements in there. There's a lot of character elements and emotion elements. It wasn't just mechs beating each other up. You saw, Val and Kazu there. You had Chase and Yaz on their end as well. And it sort of played out in the fight as well, just how everything flowed. You had the flow of the Val Kazu bot. You had the sort of more self-independent, more sort of grittier, just classic punch-up of Chase. And I think that played into the mental aspects really well. And it really did tell this great story through the fight.
It was very good. And I think, for me, when I think of that, Monty, when I think of Monty, I think of these dance scene type fights.
Yeah.
People are just dancing through the battlefield, and this is literally that. And I don't want to put words in Gray's mouth or anything like that, but this feels like whether subconsciously or on purpose, it feels like it draws from a similar place that Monty did to make a lot of his fights. It's very fluid, and people are working together in both metaphysical and physical ways, and it's very fun to watch. Alex, did you have anything to say about this?
I guess I'll just pointing out the detail as well, that it's been interesting to see that Val has been the one to initiate a lot of these mind melds, because also I think she was the one who reached out to Cammy in a previous fight as well. So it's interesting to see who takes the initiative in these kind of new situations for these people. And just the back and forth between watching this like sword fighting on ice and then like the robots fighting was a very enjoyable experience. So the choreography was very excellent, and yeah, I mean, I do think we mentioned previously like this is a setup to Kazu eventually getting an episode, and I do wonder if that's one way we can dive into, like perhaps if he has struggles with letting other people into his mind, sort of thing, like what's going on there. There's some opportunities to build on this. So I appreciated this aside in the chaos of the whole Vanguard fight.
Yeah, this was a very nice aside, and I think it leads very nicely into our next topic, which is Yaz trying to meld with Chase. Yaz asks to, and Chase, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but Chase just doesn't want to do it. Chase is very scared of doing this, and I think he has a right to not want to. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's a very personal thing. It's a very, it's just very personal. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do think that he has more walls up than he needs to, though, at this point.
Well, he does, but does he though? Cause he's still going through this whole 2 minds, 2 brains type thing. Yeah. And you saw Miranda, how she was distracted as well. I mean, it makes sense that he would be, if not more so.
Yeah, no, I think, what I'm trying to say is, I think as character-wise, I sympathize with why he doesn't want to do it, but narratively, I see, yeah, Chase, you can work through this, you need to work past these walls. Like, I'm fighting my meta, like, reading the narrative, and in character, like, this is sympathetic, yes, I get why he doesn't want to do it. But,
another angle here is that, we're reminded in the beginning of this episode that Yaz and Chase have known each other the longest of the Genlock people, because Yaz is like, hey, the doctor's earned our trust, or we owe our lives to him, sort of thing. And so then when you get to this moment where you'd have to think that this is something that they've gone through before, where Yaz tries to like get Chase to accept and it doesn't work. So like now in the middle of this fight, he's denying again. So it adds a layer of tragedy to it, the fact that these 2 people who have known each other the longest still don't trust each other enough to be able to go through with it.
I think this could be leading into either a Kazu or a Yaz episode, because I could see Yaz being very hurt by this, because she sees all these new recruits just doing it instantly, and she's like, Chase, why aren't we doing this? Like, do you not trust me? Because it feels like Yaz very much is concerned about people trusting her that she's not Union anymore. And I feel like that might come into play next episode. And
at the same time, Weller had that really sort of personal moment with her when he said goodbye too. So that could be something worth it. I think that's something worth exploring too. Like, how is she Union? What did she do in the Union? Why did Weller want her to bust her out, for example?
Yeah. There's a lot here, and there's a lot of balls in the air, and I'm not sure which ones we're going to hit first, but we'll definitely find out next week on that. But we still have one more section I want to talk about, and that is after this fight scene, we see Cammy and Kazu and Val doing some cool stuff in their mechs. Like, nothing like insane besides the Val Kazu melding their brains thing, but they're doing some little things along with the rest of the team, with Miranda and everybody. And then the Union breaks into the base, and they have to run back and fight in their human bodies to protect their bodies and the robots. I think this might be the weakest sequence of the episode, personally. I think it has a couple of good moments, like they find the party, and they hide with Cammy's like illusion thing. But overall, I think this section moves a little bit more, I don't know, this section is probably the most predictable of all of them, I guess I'd say.
I mean, yes, but I also think, it's the question of, I think the problem that it is kind of, it's because we're kind of in a limbo here, because we don't know if any of these things are going to stick. So we don't know if Weller is actually gone we won't know until next episode. Or like until like we figure out, did he copy his mind or not? Like, we don't know that yet. And we also don't know if everyone at the base is gone or not by the Union. Are they being held hostage, or are they actually being like, was that the death of them? So I think the reason it feels kind of stilted is because of that, is because we don't know. But I do think those moments of sacrifice, or like, Weller's moment of sacrifice, and then at the end when that realization that, oh no, we actually didn't win. They're all going to, something bad is happening. I do think those beats were hit very well. I mean, when Weller said, like, you're not getting my kids, like, come on. Like, that was just...
Well, no. When I say weakest, I say weakest of this episode. Like, this episode's good. Like, it can still be good, but be the weakest.
But no, yeah. So I think this is just, like, the fault of it being, like, all right, well, this is still a continuous series, and this is where we stop, and then we go to the next one.
I think what makes it feel weakest for me is that, like, other episodes, like, we've been talking, we have been very good at not predicting, but understanding what is going to be talked about next week, like, in general. Like, we understood kind of just through our conversation, like, it makes sense for Cammy to have an episode next week, and she did. We were worried that she wouldn't, but she had an episode that week. And then the previous week, we were like, hey, we need to talk about this clone thing. Like, this is just, like, we had assumed, like, that clone stuff was just, like, there for viewers who are digging in deep, but no, we talked about it immediately this week, along with copying memories and stuff like that. Like, I really like that we've been able to understand where the show's going, and this is the first time I feel kind of rudderless. I don't know which, and that's not bad. I'm just saying it means that I don't know which of these things that happen at the end of the episode are actually hooks for next week. I don't know which things we have to look out for.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about this enough, but it's crazy that this is episode 6, and it feels like it could pass as the season finale.
Yeah,
like, the idea that, like, your whole base of operations has been destroyed, and like you have a giant reveal that, like, hey, your main leader, it actually exists as a clone. Like, these are all, like, big things. We're, like, still in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I think honestly,
you could cut that off right there, and it would have been like, wow, that's a great season finale.
And I think this episode might work better as a season finale, to be honest. Like, I think I would accept this ending a lot more as a season finale.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of bad stuff happens.
Yeah. I mean, there is going to be, you're going to have Chase and Morning. They're going to probably think that they're not, unless very immediately it's made clear that they have Miranda under hostage, or something. Like, Chase is going to be in mourning for her and for his old team and his old life.
I think it's possible that Julian keeps Miranda safe.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm like, oh, Julian's gonna, like, do I want her to be a damsel in distress? No, because maybe, like, she'll escape on her own. But also, like, here's the thing. It's like, will Julian be the one who gets that new mech? Or will they figure out that Miranda's actually, like, force Miranda into the mech? And it's like, oh god, but she's not compatible. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, that last mech is still a giant Chekhov's gun. It keeps getting built. They keep adding stuff to it. Like, it's gonna happen this season.
I've seen the theory that, like, that guy who they said was aged out, like, he's part of the group there. They might use him in the whole on that. I think it's Leon, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's gonna be the first death. You know, he's gonna do it, and then he's gonna, like, lose the uptime. I don't know, something with the uptime goes wrong or something, because he was too old, but he still managed to hold off for some X time. I don't know. I'm just theorizing. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff we could go here. There is I'm not quite sure who's gonna die, who's gonna be the sixth pilot, and it's going to be exciting to see where we go. I don't know what we're going to do for 2 episodes now, because we have the Holons pretty much alone now. We don't have Weller, assumedly. We don't have any command structure. Are we just going to be leading into more of a free-form type deal? Like, the characters are just going to try to do their best on their own? Like, I don't know how well that's going to work, though.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's going to be tricky. And also, I don't know. Well, I mean, we must assume that some people did escape, right?
Yeah.
Like, some of the base did end up leaving.
And I assume there's more Vanguard that exists, that Anvil isn't the only base, but it feels like this is one of the biggest bases for the Anvil.
Totally.
Or biggest bases for the Vanguard. Which is going to be tough.
Who knows? Maybe we're just going to get a big introduction to more characters and like, setup.
Yeah.
My biggest worry is that, because at least in Ruby, I've noticed that usually they have a good big episode, but then there's like 2 more episodes after it, or like an episode after it. So it never ends strong, even though there's a moment that they could have cut it off and it would have ended strong.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before on the Ruby podcast, where it's like, it feels like they kind of do it like Game of Thrones, where like the second to last episode's great, or this big moment, and then they do denouement in the last episode. And that can work very well, as early Game of Thrones showed. But it means that you have to stick the landing really well.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying that's what they're setting themselves up for here. They have to stick the landing really well.
And they have 2 episodes to do it, though.
Yeah,
that's
15 minutes.
Yeah, but two episodes makes me think there's more action to come. Like, we're not just doing denouement here. Like, there's gonna be another Chase Julian fight, or we're gonna have another fight with the Union, like, or Union backstory. Because we still don't know much about the Union. It feels like we need a Yaz episode in these two, so we get background on the Union.
I mean, I think that would make sense. And also, I feel like Yaz is going to be the one who's going to know how to infiltrate the Union.
Yes.
So she's going to, I feel like we are going to go back and save someone.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, the season finale could just be us going to the Union to save Miranda or something.
Yeah.
And secretly to save Julian as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of little things we can do here. I think there's a lot less, just because there was so much fighting, there's a little bit less philosophical stuff to talk about, which is always fun with you guys. It's always fun talking about identity with you guys.
I'll just say one benefit to the ending is that this episode didn't separate our main cast, and I think that that's something other shows may have done with this kind of finale, where like they go their separate ways for various reasons, but they're still stuck together, and I think that that's the strongest piece of the show, that they've developed that chemistry. So now, away from the structure of the Vanguard, we get to see them, hang out in different ways, and I think that there's fun to be pulled out of that.
No, there definitely is. And I definitely like that it feels like they're very aware of what works in their other shows, which is a good part of Rooster Teeth. Like, all their shows, like, they communicate between them. And I think they're aware, like, hey, this works if we keep the team together, because people like the team. And they must have known while writing it, like, hey, this is working really well. Like, I think we're getting things across really well. And so they just kept the team together at this point. Maybe they were gonna separate them, but just, this team is fun. Like, I really am attached to all the Holon pilots, and I hope we get to see them together. Like, obviously it's fun seeing them pair off and stuff like that, but we're not separating them from everybody ever.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And it's too early to even think about really separating them out anyway. That's like, if you're gonna do that, that's like season 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. Obviously, there is narrative reason to separate characters from the group, but I'm just saying that right now does not feel like the right time. We're still growing in their relationship, we're still getting a foundation for the relationships between them, and I don't think that's a time to mix it up.
Yeah.
But yeah. I guess we can just start wrapping up then, and we can start talking about either theories or any last thoughts you have. So, Beatriz, is there anything we missed here that you wanted to talk about?
I think, the biggest pet peeve for me in this episode was when Valentina throws the knife at the Union soldier, and it falls, and she runs past them, and then they don't pick up their knife.
Oh my god, Beatriz.
They don't. I was like, dude, this isn't a video game where you have unlimited amounts of knives.
Well, no, it's the opposite of that. It is a video game. She needs to pick up the knife. Like, when I throw a throwing knife at someone, I just loot it.
It's pick up, like, they had the shot ready. I was like, please pick up the knife. Please pick up the knife. And nope, just ran past it. And I was just like, dude, you have limited resources. You need to respect what you have.
Yeah.
And no, worse than the knife, they left a perfectly good cake in the debriefing room.
Yeah. I mean, how dare
like, take a piece for the road.
But I will say though, theory, the Union's in Miami. It's there.
Oh my god.
It's there. Yaz gonna be like, look, they were in Calle Ocho, like, that's where we gotta go, like, that's it. That's what we're gonna learn. I'm sticking by that.
It's been one episode. We're already on reruns with the theories.
Yeah, no. Beatriz is empowered by the listeners,
they give me strength.
Yeah, no, they're memeing right back at you, and so
it's this wonderful cycle of just.
Yeah, no, listeners, you should know, the more you meme at us, the more we meme back. It's just how the world works.
It's an infinite meme loop.
Yeah.
Yes. Infinite meme loop in Miami where I'm suntanning.
All right, moving on. Alex, anything else you want to add to this?
In the flashback, there was another very obvious Ship of Theseus writing. Yes. I feel like we had that in a previous episode.
What? Ship of what?
Ship of Theseus. It was like in big letters on one of his screens, one of the doctor's screens, and it was also on one of his screens in a previous episode. It's a philosophical thought experiment about if you replace all the pieces of a ship, then is it still the same ship, sort of thing. Yep. So it's just funny that it's again like it's the philosophical theme, but I think like this is the most obvious, like, hey, in your face, hey, this is what we're talking about, guys.
Yeah, but they never a character hasn't called it out yet.
Yeah, they haven't said it. They just like, like keep putting it in big block letters on screen.
Yeah.
So like it's funny.
It's the weirdest thing. Like, is this show or is this tell? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Yeah. So that and Miles Luna's character says "Vamonos."
Yes.
So that was our was our Spanish
Vamonos,
of the week.
let's go.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. John, do you have any final thoughts here?
I've learned now Shipophesius and Chekhov's gun, so yay! I now know other terms.
All right, awesome.
Good thing there's no Schrodinger's cat, though.
I mean, it's never too early. It's never too late for Schrodinger's cat to show up. It's quantum. That's a sci-fi mainstay. But anyways, it was fun.
Have we discussed call signs yet?
Oh, we did not discuss the call signs. Did you want to talk about them, Alex?
So on the party banner, they have their reveal of call signs. We have Val as Wraith, Yaz as Huma, Chase as Chaser. Oh, come on. Cammy as Tritz, and Kazu as Shogun. So.
Oh, come on, not Shogun.
Yeah.
That's so on the nose. Come on.
Okay, that's what call signs are for.
Cammy as Tritz because it's a bunny.
Funny.
Chase is Chaser. Like
Beatriz, call signs are supposed to be stupid and obvious. That's the point. They're supposed to be obvious to the people
if
that know
Kazu
them.
was the one who named himself Shogun, then okay. But technically he didn't name himself that, did he?
The Val as Wraith is a good.
That's solid. That's solid.
Cool. But like the Chase, Cammy, and Kazu are bad.
No, I think Cammy's pretty good considering how young she is. I think it's pretty good.
Cammy would appreciate it. I'm just saying,
Oh, no.
I feel like Cammy should have been the one to give them call signs. Is my thing. I feel like Cammy should have been the one.
Well, here's the thing. I think Cammy would have been very upset with being called Tricks, but then secretly loved it a lot.
So I'm just saying. Look, it may not stick. These guys are dead, so maybe they won't be calling them.
But they also might call themselves that out of memory or something.
Oh no.
But I do think this is a nice moment. I think this is a good. I'm glad we brought it up again. I do think this is a good moment in the episode. It's very short. It's very tight storytelling where we have this moment earlier where they're like, "Hey, we should have a party," and they're like, "No, we're gonna go have a briefing." And they come there like, "Oh, it was a party." It was very short. We didn't stay on it for longer than we needed to, but it did hit home that hey, these people are friends, and at some level they enjoy each other's company, and it makes it harder than now knowing that most of them are dead.
Yeah.
And Kazu feels bad, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need more Kazu
character
development.
We do.
We need a lot more of it. But did you ever think of that ship name, Beatriz?
I don't know. Purple Vanguard or something. I don't know.
Okay, you're useless. We're moving on.
What would our call sign be, do you think?
Oh no, we're not. I can't do this off the top of my head, John. This is not happening. Maybe next week we'll have call signs ready.
What is purple and red? What is purple and red?
A rune?
No, but what things are purple and red?
Plums and cherries?
Plums and cherries, that's the name.
I'm moving on. We're gonna end the episode now.
For dancing swords.
No, I like plums and cherries better. It's cuter.
I'm moving on now. Thanks everybody. I actually have to end it though. I can't just say bye everybody. We're done.
I mean,
you can find out everything about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. Join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. And you can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Alec, aka Frozone. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Hugh. Anything else coming up soon, you guys? I know there's possibly a How to Train Your Dragon 3 pod coming up. We just had Dragon Prince coverage. Anything else you guys can think of?
No.
Awesome. Cool. Glad I threw it to you guys. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.